Welcome back to our bulletin, and tonight the Maritime and Dock Workers Union has called for the immediate review of the Tema Port expansion project contract to ensure that the country is not shortchanged. The Build, Operate and Transfer project agreement, according to the MDU, did not go through competitive bidding before it was forwarded to Parliament for ratification due to unwarranted political interference. In an interview with Joy Business, the General Secretary of the union, Daniel Cranting, also disclosed that over 1,400 workers are likely to go home.
It's a very good project with a bad contract. And that is what I want to say. It's not as if it's a bad project. In fact, it has been part of the master plan of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Tema Port, for a very long time. And that we have such a world-class project should be something that should be good for the business, the container business for Ghana. Having said so, there are very serious issues with the project. The concession agreement is bad, the processes are flawed, and we have embedded in the concession agreement some provisions that if we don't change them, Ghana will be shortchanged. We'll lose, massive. There will be massive job losses for Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, and then also for other operators that have been doing businesses in the port. It's like if we implement the project, then you are getting involved in a zero-sum game, where if MPS wins, all other people will lose, and that is what we have a problem with, and that is why we are asking for a renegotiation of the concession agreement, and not that the project must be abrogated. The project, as I've said, is good, but the deal, the contract, the concession agreement is so bad. It doesn't serve national interest. It doesn't also help in creating job loss, it doesn't help in job creation, and that is why we have problems. Somebody will ask, why now?
Yeah, because I was just going to ask you that, why now, one, and what exactly beyond job losses, which you as a union, probably you are concerned about, what other fine details do you think that must be looked at again?
Okay, the issue of why now, I'll address that. In the sense that, let me be very frank, that if we are a union and you are speaking, you should speak from a position of knowledge. You should speak from a position of deep understanding of what the situation is. And looking at the way contracts are, we contract agreements, it is not very easy to come across the details of a certain concession agreement. And that is one issue. So sometimes we have a problem with transparency, and it's not very easy to get the issues coming out clearly.
So issues arising there at the ports, and we'll certainly follow that for you here on Business Live. But for now, a report chronicling various charges on products and services offered by banks in the country has presented a mixed picture of ATM charges by the banks. The report covers the charges of 27 banks on various products and services as of December 2018. It covers charges from current accounts, savings accounts, checkbook charges, including what is paid by customers as fees on various charges when it comes to taking loan. Philip Namfuri has been taking a look at the data released by the Bank of Ghana, joins me in studio for some more discussion about it. Great to have you. It's been a while.
Yes,
so what's in that report, really?
Okay, well, the Bank of Ghana is looking at 27 banks as of December 2018, and the various charges they put on the various products and services they have. So we look at current accounts, we look at savings accounts. For example, savings accounts, some banks require you to have a minimum operating balance within your account. So that money, it's untouched. Even if your account goes below, you can't go below that figure. So you can't go to the ATM and withdraw out that maybe 30 cedis or 100 Ghana cedis. Then we look at charges on loans. Anytime we go and borrow, we're all excited, interest rates are dropping. But before you access your loan, there are multiplicity of fees you have to pay. There are about 5. We have the arrangement fee, you have a commitment fee. And this commitment fee, as you that will pay if you wanted a loan, is to compensate the banks in case you change your mind along the way that, you know what, I don't want this loan anymore. Then we have the insurance fees we pay on the loans. The interesting part, like you rightly said in your introduction, was the ATM charges.
Yeah, because I use my ATM a lot.
Yes. and the Bank of Ghana broke it down into 3 main types of charges. When they are issuing the ATM cards, when you are withdrawing from your bank's own ATM, and then when there are ATM card maintenance charges. We know sometimes when you go to another bank to withdraw, maybe you are banking with EcoBank and you go to GCB, there's a charge on that. We are well aware of that. But going to your own bank to withdraw and you are charged. And I was surprised to see that a bank like UBA, for example, charges you 0.5 Ghana cedis, that's less 50 pesos, for withdrawing your own funds from the ATM. I found it very interesting. You find that most of the banks in this category, that's withdrawing from their ATMs, were free.
Okay.
An example is ATM card maintenance. UBA again, for example, can go as high as, okay, UBA has a nail here. Stand Charge can go as high as 15 Ghana cedis a month for maintaining your ATM charges. We had others also that didn't charge anything. And again, Bank of Ghana couldn't get all the data. So you have some banks with not applicable or not available when it comes to the data.
And one of the things I was looking out for was whether or not the banks are charging more now compared to previous years. We don't have the data for previous years, but I mean, what does this say about charges when it comes to financial services?
Okay, Daryl, banks make their income from two main sources. We have the interest income, which we know from the loans they give out, and we have the non-interest income, or what we call fees and commissions. So they are in business to return value to their shareholders, I beg your pardon. So it's not wrong that they charge us something small. Yes, we may complain because if you look at the amount of funds in your account and you're looking at 15 cedis being withdrawn from it for ATM charges, you complain, especially if your salary is a little or if your savings are not that much. But this is a primary means by which banks make money. And if you look at some of the charges, like 50 pesos on withdrawing, it's a bit negligible. You might not see it, but imagine a bank having about 600,000 accounts. Multiply this, and you have a whole number of funds sitting with the bank. So these are the number of ways that the banks make money. And I said two main ways: interest income from lending and then non-interest income. And it's very important that we look at this data. It's available on the Bank of Ghana's website. Yes,
because I was also going to ask you why the Bank of Ghana is releasing this data. How does it affect you and I? Is it just about looking at, oh, is my bank charging? Is this other bank charging more than my bank? And how does it affect bank operations?
Daryl, over the course of time, there has been some discussions about transparency of the commercial banks in the country and the Bank of Ghana itself. We've seen that in the recent bank cleanup, Bank of Ghana has been pushed to come out and give us more information. At the heading of this report, they said this is to promote transparency. And you realize that this is something that I would regard as novel, because I've never seen a well-documented list of all the banks in Ghana when it comes to their charges. So apart from gauging what's in there, if you are well-informed customer, it's up to you to go there, especially when you're bank shopping. If you have a corporate account, more like this, there are charges that go to affect your business. If you're a startup and you're going to open a corporate account to the bank and you're going to be hit with charges all over, you'll not be happy. So if you go through this report and it's not very hard to understand. There's a legend at the back where Bank of Ghana explains everything. So you can go through it and be well informed to make sure that, you know what, this is the bank I want to be with, this is the bank I don't want to be with.
All right. But do people really care? We'll talk about that. Let's pull up a poll we are running today. We are asking, do you care about the various charges your bank levies on services they render to you? And just take a look at that. And it's no surprise, really. Yes. 83% say yes, they care. 17% say no, they don't care. So, and this base of 120 votes, just in about 3 hours or so, we initiated the poll. So do they really have cause to care, this 83%?
Daryl, you really have cause to care, because imagine your salary hits your account as a round figure of about maybe 1,500 Ghana cedis. And at the end of the month, you have maybe your life insurance deductions, you have your own savings and investment schemes. Then you're going to be hit by a multiplicity of charges. You should be concerned. And like I said, if you're a startup, you're starting a company, you need to open a corporate account, because it's one of the prudent means by which you can track your revenues or your income flows. So if you have an account and these are charges that you are being hit by a bank with, then you should take a look at it and see which bank is more fair. But again, this is one of the means by which banks will make money. So don't expect freebies all around.
Yeah, you also mentioned that this report talks about how much interest banks charge on loans. We do an assessment of that.
The various fees, yes.
And it's important we talk about this because recently the Bank of Ghana, the Monetary Policy Committee, cut the policy rate to 16%. Then the whole conversation about, this should translate in how much interest banks pay on loans. You have been speaking to Professor Peter Korte, an economist. What did he have to say about that?
Essentially, Daryl, anytime the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana cuts the rate, the corresponding drop in interest rates or lending rates is not the same. It's not a one-to-one drop. It's going to take some time because other components make up interest rates, that's lending rates by the banks. So monetary policy is just one component of this. And I asked the professor and then he spoke a bit about it.
Shall we hear a bit of what Professor Peter Korte had to say?
Policy rate is one of several factors that determines lending rates. If you want to lend, you look at the cost of mobilizing the funds, how much interest you pay to whoever you took the funds from. You look at your cost of operations and many other factors. The policy rate itself, yes, has some influence because it gives a signal to the market that if you want to borrow from me as a central bank, I'm prepared to lend to you at a lower rate. So that's a signal to you to also reduce yours. But it's not a one-to-one increase, that if there's a decline by 100 basis points, you want to see lending rates also come down by 100 basis points because the other factors have not changed. The default risk hasn't changed. The cost of doing business hasn't changed. So there are several things that goes into this. But you would also agree with me that from the statement that the Bank of Ghana released and from other statistical sources, the lending rates was around 29% in 2017. Now it's about 26 point something percent as we speak. So yes, we've seen gradual decline in the policy rates, and the lending rate is also going down. It's not a one-to-one movement, but we see considerable decline in the lending rates.
All right, Professor Peter Korte there. Do you anticipate that with this report coming out, banks will now try to reconsider how much they are charging on loans because they realize that my competitor is charging this amount? Is it going to really affect any change?
Darryl, like the good professor said, if other things don't change, then it's not going to change. If the monetary policy rate drops and other factors that affect interest rates, like the cost of deposits and other things, are still the same or are still high, then the bank will have to factor this into its risk and it's going to obviously affect. But over the course of the year, that's 2018, lending rates have come down from about 29% to 26%. This is marginal, but over the course of the coming months, we should see all things being equal. If other fundamentals are held constant, then we should see this coming down appreciably. With regards to this, yes, this is good information. I urge everybody to go to Bank of Ghana's website and dig into this and see what exactly your bank
I'm going to take a look myself.
Yeah, but then this is us at December 2018. So we know we've had the measures and stuff. So some banks will no longer be on it. But all things being equal, you should just check it out to see what the banking industry is saying.
All right, Philip Namfori, Joy Business Researcher, thanks very much for the update. Now, 14 years after working with multinationals as an engineer, she quit her job to pursue a passion in fashion. Gertrude Tennyson Razak, a top-class engineer who helped implement 2 and 3G networks at Vodafone, tells Odilia Ntiama she was bored. She says the money may no longer be 5 decades, but it's fulfilling. Details next in our Joy Business Van episode.
On the Joy Business Van today, we're taking a look at that female engineer trained by Malaysia left this country with resources to go to Malaysia to be trained as a telecoms engineer. After 10 years, she decided to just go an interesting way. She is actually a seamstress, or what you would call a designer. We're here today to be finding out exactly why on earth an engineer would want to be a seamstress. Please, let's go. Hi, Gertrude.
Hi, Julia. Welcome to my home.
Thank you. So, I was just gossiping about you out there.
Okay.
Exactly why did you, as an engineer, decide to leave that to be sewing? Your dress is nice anyway.
Thank you.
Did you make it yourself?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
It's all about passion. You know, I have always wanted to do something in the fashion industry. And for me, not working for over a year, taking my CV all round and thinking of what else could I do. Then I remembered I had a passion for fashion. So I decided to enroll in a fashion school to see how I can continue from there.
Okay. So, has it been fulfilling?
Extremely fulfilling.
For me, I like to talk about the money. Has it been fulfilling there as well?
Not so fulfilling when it comes to the money aspect, because comparing my last salary to what I make every month, you can't measure the two. But doing my own thing gives me joy, it gives me happiness. I can work from morning to morning, I don't get tired.
Gertrude Tennyson Razak worked as a telecoms engineer for 14 years. Implementing the 2G network was one of the achievements she bagged at Vodafone.
I think the 2G rollout, for me, it was the toughest project I had handled in Vodafone.
I'm sure you're laughing now because we're now doing 4G.
Yes. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Yes. So I worked with Huawei. When Huawei came to Ghana first, I was one of the engineers who was privileged to work with them to roll out the 2G network. We were working with Alcatel-Lucent then. So we had to swap from Alcatel-Lucent to Huawei. And you know, having new Chinese people in town, some didn't understand English, and you had to work with them. It was one of the interesting yet most very challenging projects I had to undertake. But at the end of the day, it went well. And I think less than a year after the swap, we had to go on to 3G. So I started it and I left it to the team to handle.
So what was the tipping point after all these achievements?
For me, working in Vodafone for over 12 years, I got to a point where I didn't enjoy what I was doing.
Having stayed home for a year with no job, a friend offered to pay for her fashion school.
Before I left, I had a challenge, or I had an issue with my boss. He actually told me I'm a failure. So I stayed home for 1 year, brooding over being called a failure, and actually telling myself, yes, you're a failure because you can't really do anything for yourself. But at a point, with friends around encouraging me, I picked up, and a very good friend of mine, Kwame Ofori, who I would never forget, decided to pay my school fees to enroll me in a fashion school because I expressed interest. In fact, at the time, I was very broke.
Engineering has played a major role in Gertrude's pursuit for fashion, including coming up with creative patterns which are unique to engineering.
You know, as an engineer, you deal a lot with designs. So engineering, designing, at times before you put up an infrastructure, you have to design it. And for a fashion designer, we use patterns. So you need to draw the pattern. If I have to sew for you, I need to put your pattern on a brown paper, you know, before I can cut it out. So for an engineer, I think before I even started using the pattern, I had already experienced that. So it was very easy. And I remember my fashion school teacher told me my patterns look different. You know, so he wanted to understand. And I said, oh, I'm an engineer. And he said, oh, wow, no wonder your patterns look different. So I decided to look at how we can infuse our cloth into the foreign fabric. So this is a pencil skirt with the belts, and you mix it with the African fabric. So let's say Friday you want to look Ghana, you have an after work party, you can take this.
A senior manager at Vodafone, a general manager for a mobile phone brand, Gertrude Razak says sewing is more fulfilling.
If you're big, or if you're a senior manager in Vodafone, commercial manager in another company, general manager, you should have an idea how much I was taking. When I started sewing, I wasn't making even 50% of my salary.
Wow.
But for me, that wasn't an issue, because for me, there was this thing in me I wanted to fulfill. For me, I just wanted to make people look good.
3D sewing, this is novel, one of Gertrude's strong points.
I have this very innovative client who wouldn't just come and tell you, get to do this for me. It was her birthday, 30th birthday I think, and she wanted to have a photo shoot. And she didn't want just the normal dresses. She wanted a skirt with the 3D rose. So you have the flare skirt and you see the rose popping out of it. I was like, why not? So we took that journey and it came out so beautiful. In fact, it's so beautiful. Just last week, someone called me to really confirm whether it wasn't bought from outside.
Take this business secret that gets clients coming.
Now I can even drive to my client's place, deliver it for them, and not even take anything. All I want is for them to be happy.
CBD sewing, that sounds very, very interesting. Well, as we conclude tonight, we want to bring you a summary of news items, business news items from Ghana and around the world.
The Securities and Exchange Commission has warned the public against dealing with 6 fund management companies. They include HFC Capital Partners, Atai Capital Limited, Serengeti Capital Limited, Indigo Investment Management Limited, Verit Investment Advisory Limited, Waxen Investment and Pension Management Limited. They have been ordered to cease operations with immediate effect. The Ghana Export and Import Bank, Exim Bank, is to extend a $1 million loan facility to Aztec Ghana Limited to revamp the fruits processing operations of the company at Nsawam in the eastern region. According to a graphic online report, the loan will be used to procure fruits processing machines and other equipment to pave the way for the start of operations in September 2019.
And thanks for watching our program tonight. There's more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. There's a latest report on mobile money transactions that has hit 233 billion cedis in 2018. You want to read more about that? My name is Daryl Kwao. Thanks for watching. We are back same time tomorrow.